All right, good morning, traders. Today is April 4th, 2025. Look like it's the beginning of Tariff War Day. All right, so I want to thank everybody out. I want to thank all my members for subscribing. Thank you so much. Uh, I don't take that lightly. I'm grateful for each and every one of you. Thank you so much for subscribing and seeing the value in my content. Thank you, everybody out there in digital land, cyberland, podcast land. Again, thank you for seeing the value in my content. I appreciate that. Thank you for your subscriptions, your following, and your kind comments. I love that. All right, so my SPY pivot this morning, 542. Above it, I'm a bull. Below it, I'm a bear. All of the Fab Five still in daily downtrends. All of them. All of them. All made lower highs, lower lows, closing below bearish traps, below falling 17 EMAs. SPY closed, 2-hour downtrend, 10-minute downtrend. Gold in a daily uptrend, silver no longer in a daily uptrend. Made an outside day. That's a higher high and a lower low. Closing inside a closing inside a bullish trap, really, over the rising 17 EMA. Closing inside a bullish trap. Silver made lower high, lower low, closing below a bearish trap and under the rising 17 EMA. USO made a lower high and a lower low, closing below a bearish cross and under the rising 17 EMA. UNG made a higher low and a higher high, closing over a bullish trap. The only light in the tunnel right now is UNG right now and gold. All right. Those are the only two kind of like maintaining any sort of bullishness. Although today could change. We'll see what happens. So again, UNG made a higher low and a higher high, closing over a bullish trap over the rise, over the 17 EMA. US dollar index in a downtrend. We like that. Doesn't really seem to matter much today. Closed near the 101.95 area. SPY max pain for today. That's for the options that expire today. All right, it's 550 with a put to call ratio of just under 1.5 puts to each call that expires today at 415. All right, let's go take a look at some charts. All right, SPY on 10 minute. All right, you can see right here. All right, price candles underneath the 8. All right, so we have okay, see the yellow line underneath the white one? Okay, so I have a 10-minute downtrend coming into the close. 2-hour chart. Yep, 2-hour downtrend coming into the close. Daily chart. Daily downtrend coming into the close. All right, weekly chart. All right, you can see the weekly chart making lower lows. Here's a low, we made a lower low. All right, lower lows, weekly charts in a downtrend. Monthly chart. Okay, monthly chart will not be in jeopardy till we get below 414. All right, it's possible. So below 414, that's when the monthly chart is in jeopardy. All right, so there's SPY for the game plan. Not that it's going to matter much today, but we'll take a look at it anyways. And we'll zoom out here. Okay, SPY pivot 542, price over 546.30. That'll be a tall order. All right, that's our bullish green erases red entry. Red erases green. All right, price below 538.20. Definitely got that. Look for a 10-minute downtrend. All right, to trade to the downside. Okay, just because it's below 538.20 doesn't mean sell it. All right, wait for the 10-minute downtrend under VWAP. All right, I like 7 days till expiration Friday options or 14 days till expiration Friday options, $2 to $5 out of the money. Let's take a look at QQQ. QQQ, same options here for QQQ, okay? 7 days till expiration or 14 days till expiration, $2 to $5 out of the money. Got bullish green erases red over 467.70. Don't think we'll see that. QQQ pivot 455. Bearish red erases green underneath 551.60. We're way beyond that. Again, wait for the 10-minute downtrend under VWAP, all right? If it's not under VWAP, it's not working, All right, so probably won't be too many trades today, being since VWAP's going to be pretty well messed up. All right, so there's QQQ on the 10-minute chart. All right, with the QQQ game plan. All right, let's go back and take a look at QQQ on the daily chart, and we'll look at it right here. You can see QQQ putting in lower highs and lower lows. It's in a downtrend. QQQ closed yesterday, lower high, lower low, under the trap, under, see the red dots, falling 17, under pink line, all-time high anchored VWAP, under green dash right there. That's the midpoint, okay, at the bottom of quadrant 1. All right, that's bearish, QQQ. Let's take a look at IWM. All right, it's the same thing. It's bearish. All right, under the trap, under the 17, under the all-time high anchored VWAP, it's bearish. All right, diamond down. All right, same thing. Lower high, lower low, under the trap, under the 17, under all-time high anchored VWAP, under the uptrend line, down here in the lower third, that's bearish. All right, SPY. Okay, down here at the bottom of the lower third, that's bearish. All right, let's take a look at FNGA. All right, again, same thing. Lower high, lower low, under the trap, under the falling 17. That's the red dots. Okay, bearish trap. You can see yellow 3 EMA is underneath the white 8 EMA, underneath the falling 17. All right, that's the red dots. Underneath all-time high anchored VWAP, that's a pink line in quadrant 1. That's bearish. All right, so all of the Fab 5 are bearish. All right, let's take a look at where we want to go next. To the technicals, T2122. All right, that is bearish right there. Yesterday's price action, okay? We got into the buy zone for a micro minute, all right? Right in for a micro minute in the buy zone. And then the bears booted us airborne, okay? Airborne. All over. We didn't even stop for anything. Over the buyer's chop zone, over the midpoint, over the seller's chop zone. That's like from New York to LA in 5 minutes right there. Okay, all the way down to the oversold zone, and we camped out there all day long. All right, so there's price action for T2122. Nothing bullish happened yesterday. Okay, T2123. Bearish gap down. Notice we still didn't fill the gap from 3 days ago. All right. See the gap from 3 or 4 days ago on the 31st. Okay. Still haven't filled that bearish gap. Then we create another bearish gap. Okay. Made a lower high and an equal low. We'll probably be down even lower today. Okay. Nothing but selling happening all day yesterday for T2123. Red from the beginning to the end of the day. 3-bar chart. All right. Notice on the 15 minutes, still underneath the flat 200 there. 3-bar chart. Gap down, 3 more red candles, gap down, move over to the right. All right. Underneath a falling 200 SMA right there. T2123. All right. FNGA. All right, selling from the beginning of the day to the end of the day. All right, caught underneath, falling or rolling over 200 SMA. Okay, now pointed down underneath all-time high anchored VWAP there. Okay, in a downtrend. Lower highs, lower lows, downtrend. All right, let's take a look at a few sectors. Start off with XLE. All right, XLE was looking good. All right, it was. And we got a lower high and a lower low yesterday. Closed underneath a bearish cross. Closed underneath a rising 17 EMA. Closed underneath downtrend line 1, downtrend line 2, and the all-time, the 12-month high anchored VWAP right there. Okay, just neutral, but you can see right here, price action down in the lower quadrant, that's bearish. All right, so they're neutral, because they're not in the lower third, but you can see they're already there today, bearish. All right, XLE. All right, closed neutral yesterday, today bearish because they're down here in the lower quadrant. Let's take a look at USO. All right, USO, yesterday's price action is this candle way down here. See that? Way down here. Not up here, way down here. All right. Lower high, lower low, closing, under, bearish cross, under, rising 17, under, uptrend line, under, what is this? This is a 3-year high anchored VWAP. See the post-COVID high? Right there, under post-COVID high anchored VWAP, 3-year high anchored VWAP there. Down here in the lower third, that's bearish. All right, USO. All right, let's take a look at UNG. UNG, higher low, higher high, closing over bullish trap, over the flat 17, over the uptrend line, over the 12-month high anchored VWAP. Up here in quadrant 4, that's bullish. Let's take a look at GLD. GLD put in an outside day. That's a higher high and a lower low, closing inside a bullish trap over prior all-time high anchored VWAP. Up here in quadrant 4, that's bullish. That's still in an uptrend. Silver, all right, see this low right here? We made a lower low, now in a downtrend. Lower high, lower low, closing below this 6-month and 12-year high anchored VWAP right there. All right, closing below that, closing below bearish cross, closing below flat 17 EMA up there, okay? Big hit for silver. No longer in an uptrend. All right, let's take a look at SMH. SMH, lower high, lower low, closing under a trap, under the 17. All right, that's the red dots. Closing under all-time high anchored VWAP in the bottom of quadrant 1. That's bearish. Let's go take a look at the sibling, XLK. All right, lower high, lower low, closing under uptrend line, under all-time high, all-time high anchored VWAP. That's the pink line, under a bearish trap, under the falling 17. Also bearish down here in quadrant 1. Let's take a look at XLF. XLF, lower high, lower low, closing under a trap, under the all-time high anchored VWAP. All right, underneath the flat 17, no longer in the upper third. That's bearish, making a lower low. Here's a low, they made a lower low. Okay, lower low here. So they're downtrend and neutral. All right, that's neutral. Did I say bearish? It's neutral. They're not far from bearish. They get any lower here. All right, so XLF, neutral. Let's take a look at IYT. Lower high, lower low, under the trap, under the falling 17, under all-time high anchored VWAP, down here, quadrant 1, that's bearish. That's a downtrend. Okay, so a lot of downtrends, a lot of bearishness. All right, so we'll see what happens here. Here's IYT on the daily charts. Take a look at the economic package. Here we have the dollar closing down here, still in a downtrend, making lower highs and lower lows. That's a downtrend. Closing with this big candle down here around 101.95 yesterday. Max pain for today for SPY options, 550 with a little under 1.5 puts to each call right here. All right. And on the earnings calendar, all right, just some familiar names, nothing that's really going to move the markets right here. So earnings aren't going to affect us. Economic calendar, Mr. Powell's going to speak. All right. And that's definitely going to give us some inflation if we're going to have 35% tariffs on everything that we get from China. That's pretty much our whole inventory. All right. So I don't know what Mr. Powell's going to do about that, because a 35% tariff on everything that we purchase from China is definitely going to cause inflation to go up. And I don't know whether rates will even fix that. All right. Because that's kind of like artificial inflation. Nonetheless, we'll see what he wants to say. All right. And that's it for me for today. Okay. I will come back at 9:15. All right. And we'll open up the markets. All right. Be careful today. Might be a good day just to sit on the side. All right. Wait till things. You got no trend other than a downtrend, and the downtrend looks extended. All right. And there's nothing saying it can't drop some more. All right. So be careful out there today. Not much of an edge. All right. Not much of an edge to be had. Be very, very careful. Might be good to sit on your hands today. Might be good to take a 3-day weekend. All right. Not much of an edge for day traders today, unless we can see something develop off the low anchored VWAP. All right, with a 10-minute uptrend off the low of day anchored VWAP. That's about the only trade that I see as a possibility. All right, that's it for me for today, traders. I'll see you guys in about an hour. All right. Any questions? Put them in the comments there. You have some SPY puts. Robert, you're looking good today. Thanks, Brad. Thanks, everybody. All right. I'll see you guys, like I said, in about an hour.